All right, so as I was introduced, my name is Harold Hughes. My company is Divi. You'd see our beautiful logo there, but I didn't follow directions. But ultimately, as a founder and operator, I know how hard it is to keep my investors up to date. Quick show of hands, I love crowd engagement. How many of you have purchased stock using an app like Robinhood or something like that? Show of hands. Okay, now imagine if the only way you could find out about how that stock was doing was from one single news source. Now, imagine you've got another stock that you can find out from another news source. Now think about that 6, 7, or 8 times. That's what angel investors and venture capitalists have to deal with. Keeping up with portfolio intelligence is really, really hard, and it's incredibly fragmented. And investors are pretty organized, but the market isn't. And so that's what we want to address. So the solution is Divi. This product sits above the noise, above the chaos to prevent you from losing sight of what's going on inside your companies and to give you insights before things get really, really bad. As a founder before, I'm so thankful for the investor updates I was able to deliver to my investors because that allowed me to know, hey, these people are here to support me, and it allowed my investors the opportunity to be able to roll up their sleeves and jump in just in time. So while founders get to choose the various cap table platforms that they like to use, investors choose Divi. It's an investor-first portfolio platform. So the idea here is really straightforward. You go onto the website, you add a company that you've invested in or that you are tracking, and then Divi is using our AI-powered intelligence to scan and scour the entire market, not only to find insights about your particular companies, but for their competitors, but for industry news. You can imagine how markets will be impacting your company, how policy information would be impacting your companies, and so that investors, even when you aren't getting an investor update, are going to be informed about the performance and overall risk of your investment. Our value proposition for our angel investors is really straightforward. We've created an investment health score, or an IHS, to have you look at something very quickly and be able to tell, what is the risk of my current investment today? We're not trying to replace your judgment, but we are trying to provide you data. The only thing we believe is better than data is discernment. So with Divi and your insight, you can be a better investor. Next, for syndicate leads, we want to help you continue to manage your portfolio and your visibility. As a person who syndicated tons of deals, last week I did a $475,000 syndicate. Being able to share that information simply and easily is something we can do really easily with Divi. Our public beta is live, which is why I'm here. I'm not soliciting any cash from you all. I'm here to get you all to check out the platform. If you aren't an investor yet, you can actually sign up for Divi to learn how to invest because we've got that as part of our top-end module. When we look at the initial market size, we're looking at over 400,000 accredited investors, which by the SEC's rules are a bunch of made up stuff. Ultimately, the goal here is that we are preparing for the next generation of capital allocators. There's legislation in Congress right now called the INVEST Act, which is basically the second version of the Jobs Act that was passed in 2013. And so we're going to see more and more private capital coming into the market. This is important because as entrepreneurs are building here in Charlotte, in Fort Mill, in Rock Hill, the first checks that they get are from people inside their community. They're not catching flights to Silicon Valley. So that means it's important for the dentist, the lawyer, the school teacher, whoever it is that has industry insight and cares about that entrepreneur solution to be able to support them. And so we want to help educate them as part of that process. So our go-to-market plan follows 3 core groups. Number 1, new investors, hopefully many of you. So you can sign up to the platform and learn about what it is to do investing. Next, if you are already investing, we'd love for you to come on and put on your portfolio. Be able to keep up with what's going on inside that company, even when those investor updates aren't happening. And then lastly, syndicate leads who are trying to organize all of this information. Our business model is really straightforward. We have 3 different pricing tiers. The first is free. The second is $2.99 or $29 a month. That allows you to track up to 6 companies, excuse me. And then the top tier actually allows you to track up to 20 companies and create a syndicate. So while today we're built for angels, we're going to continue to expand into venture capital as well as family offices with our enterprise solutions. Our team is tried and true. I've actually worked with literally every one of these people up here for nearly a decade apiece. Dr. Hampton Smith is my CTO. He's a Clemson University graduate with his PhD. He and I built my first tech company, Bandwagon, where we raised millions of dollars, secured partnerships with the NFL, the NBA, Pepsi, LifeWater, and tons of other companies. Monet Rouse is our Chief Design Officer. She's currently at Disney and has done some amazing things that if you've ever been, you've probably experienced. And Samantha Zoe is an incredible marketing person who has primarily worked with CPG, which is important for us as we're trying to build this product for consumers. Below, you'll see some of my portfolio companies and some of the companies that we've invested in. And so, as I said, I wear this hat as an entrepreneur and as an angel investor. So my ask is really simple, and I put it over here. I didn't realize what side I'd be on. For you to scan this QR code and check out our website. But if you can't scan it, it's just divi.fund. So that's DIVI.fund. I'd love for you to sign on, learn about angel investing, learn about venture capital, think about how this can impact your ecosystem. And for everyone else, if you know anyone who is thinking through how to manage their portfolio, tell them a little bit about us. We're based right here in Charlotte and excited to build. Thanks.
That is how we do it. I'm going to hand it over to both of you and whoever Chris want to start.
Sure. Well, first, always thanks to the person who has to go first. And obviously, this is a seat that you've sat in before, so always tough to go first. I think first of all, you hit pretty much all of the points that we would normally want to hear within there to kind of get us excited. You obviously got the timing right, which is also a big consideration. Never be too little, and definitely don't be too long on those things. I didn't see like a competitive matrix on here, so I think maybe contextualizing for some folks. My guess is though, as you're talking to angels, they're probably not using anything, right? Except Gmail and like hoping they get something. Two things I wanted to kind of ask about the product a little bit. So I think as a venture fund, we've been kind of doing this, like we've been using agents and stuff now to do this, and it's effectively been a lifesaver because investor updates are tough and getting all that stuff together. But at the sort of angel, super angel level, I think the two things that I've always struggled with, I think, in investor reporting is one, getting the company to actually send me an update, right, on a regular basis, right? So I guess, is there any element of this that integrates into the portfolio company or entices them to say, hey, don't forget to send your investor update, or don't forget I have information rights, or I don't have information rights, but please tell me, or like I think a prompting to the company. I feel like my information gaps are often stem from irregular updates more so than my inability to ingest and synthesize those things, especially today with Claude and things like that. So I guess that's one question. Do you integrate that way as well?
Absolutely. So I'm an economics grad, so the network effect is like my favorite effect in the world. And so number one, we're starting with investors to add their portfolio companies. But next, you'll see obviously the opportunity for entrepreneurs who are interested in raising, as well as those portfolio companies, being able to use Divi as their source of information and communication tool. And so right now, if you logged into Divi and added your first portfolio company, like I can look on my dashboard and it'll say, you haven't received an update from this company in 68 days. And based on the cadence you would have normally received, because we were able to use our AI to predict or look at previous history, context around the update itself. So we do some of that sentiment analysis. Oh, you're missing something. And actually that surfaced something where I met with a founder 2 weeks ago who in my portfolio needed a bridge round, but they were feeling guilty and kind of ashamed to reach out to investors. And so fortunately, I was able to use it. On the founder side, we're absolutely going to have that because we do see that founders' compliance to sharing information is the biggest challenge. And so that's also it. So that's a Q2 thing now that we're into the thick of it, having entrepreneurs be able to sign up. If you remember old angel lists where companies would have their own website and it could add, this is what we're doing, this is how we're hiring, that's what you'll see as well. But also, hey, these investors, and we'll anonymize it in some cases, these are some questions some of your investors have. We'll deliver them to you in a digest, and that way it doesn't feel as daunting, and that the investors aren't inundating the founders with questions.
Yeah, I think, because I just think the big opportunity here is to automate both sides. Like founders are like, man, the last thing I need to do is sit down and write a super long email and then manage my different levels of investor information rights Because it's like I've got my board guys who get this, and I've got my information rights guys who get this, and I got my other people who I feel like I need to tell them something. Then I got my competitors who I'm like kind of keep at bay. So I think there's a huge opportunity to just automate that flow between the two, setting different rules. And I guess the last question that I have on here is, so the health score, how much input do I get as the investor to determine the calculus of that? Because like I would want to, there are things that I might find like, okay, yeah, there's always things in the news. Like we built an AI engine and it tells me every time that every one of these companies is like being killed competitively, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know it's small and all this other stuff, but so I guess how do I get any input on the health score? Do I get to like fine tune it based off of my perceptions, or is that just something that you guys are doing at sort of a global level?
Great question. No, you do not give any insight to the score. Ultimately, everyone is so different. We don't want the number that you see to be different from the number someone else sees when they invested the same amount of money in the same company, right? You still have your own judgment that you can interpret a 76 differently than she can interpret a 76. So we don't want the investors to change the score itself. But what we do want to be able to do is have the ability for you to have your own controls on, well, what is actually risky for me? So you can decide, hey, let me know if the score drops more than 5 points, whereas mine said if the score drops more than 10 points. And so ultimately the goal here is for us to be measuring activity in and around that company. So inside the company, who's leaving, who's joining, market, where you think about policy changes, all the other things. But on top of that, being able to say, yes, you have now have this information, like I just switched to this slide. We're not trying to tell you what to think or to give you insights to some new formula. We want to just say, hey, pay attention to this. This might be something to look out for.
Okay, that's super helpful because I had a lot of the same questions, and I think I've gone through 3 of these platforms in 12 years, like running a family office, right? Yeah. So no one's nailing the dive. Yeah, just to talk about like I don't know what to call it, the pitch structure, and then I'll come back to some questions because I really want to dig in on the idea. I do think, first of all, great job. This is a really good example for those watching at home or seeing this afterwards. In the history books here of Pitch Breakfast. The nits I would pick on, there were a lot of words on slides up front. They were very much like, I was like, okay, you talked about Robinhood and E-Trade. So you had me in like retail investor, kind of new emerging platform up here. And then my eyes are like, okay, lots of words, where are we? And then you like flip into private investing. So I was like, okay. So just as a style point, and this is for other people in the room and online, there's a lot of gymnastics up front, and I wasn't getting that signal through noise. So there's just like more style points up front. Talking about signal through noise, you are using like interpretable signal. Like there's something around signal through noise. It's not my catchphrase, but when I hear that, so I think you're close to that. And there's just words I would use to help people kind of understand what you're trying to solve for here. Because I think this is where it's at. Like this got me, right? This slide. So I would either move this up or just kind of hit these points right up front. That would get me to lock in. I was also kind of where Chris was, like, where's this score coming from? What's going on? Because you're so good at like getting me in that then I just want to dig on that. And I felt like the materials and how you delivered just didn't kind of nail that dive by the end. Yeah, so those are kind of what I would call the pitch style points. The other thing that I think you do a great job of, this is for others to take away, is like you're living the problem, and you very clearly articulated that. Like if you're an entrepreneur, can explain that up front, it just credibility score goes through the roof with investors. Obvious stuff. Yeah, so now to like a little bit of editorial and digging in. Like Carta, I think is probably the incumbent. I mean, I don't know how many portfolio companies we have right now, 27. 28, like Carta is everybody. So the one point of feedback, which you might be talking about, and I'm not sure yet, is like there's workflow in Carta that I wish they would work on to make their companies as issuers of securities better behaviorally, right? So like I think you're getting to a behavioral problem, and it's not just like angels or investors that have to change their behavior, it's the companies and their lawyers, or their lack of lawyers and their lack of time and focus. So like that's an exploration I would love to like have you do more of in the pitch, because it's like, again, you're living the problem And then it's like you start to break down, hey, step one is to test these 4 components, 10 components, whatever you're testing over the next 6 months. That kind of build, test, learn, optimize muscle that you already know and have because you're an entrepreneur. So like that's, I mean, at a super deep level, that's the only feedback or pushback I'd give you is like a little bit more of that, and you're probably like top 1% of pitches, right? So, and that's just not towards you, it's kind of to the world here. But yeah, thoughts?
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I want to make sure I'm mindful of the time. Thank you for that, and I thank you both for that feedback. As an entrepreneur, and I want to say this to everyone, send the update. No matter if it's good, no matter if it's bad, because ultimately there's nothing they can do. We already have their money. Literally. And it's so important, right? And so I don't know how many of you were running companies back when Silicon Valley Bank had that scare for like 3 or 4 days, but we didn't have any money. Like it was all locked up in Silicon Valley Bank. And fortunately, because I was so intentional with my updates, I had investors saying, do you want me to wire it to your personal bank account so you can pay the team? Do you want me to Zelle it to you? Because they knew that I was sharing information in real time. So had I not been so forthcoming about the good and the bad, I wouldn't have had that lifeline. So radical compliance to sending information is one of the things we're trying to solve. So to your point, when you said like, you know, Carta is one of the top ones, our logo is normally above this slide. I have no idea why it didn't come through on it. I'm not a big PowerPoint person, but there were arrows here saying we want to incorporate it. So majority of my companies use Carta, about half use Cake, and then a couple others use these random other ones, and there's more that aren't listed. And so the key here is that we want to own, and if you take nothing away, Divi wants to own the information and communication layer of private company investing. We want to make sure that entrepreneurs have access to a tool that helps communicate that, and that investors are able to get information even when entrepreneurs aren't communicating it.
And I would take no shame in just literally calling out the 3 things that you want to crush on Carta. Like, sure. I love that. I love when entrepreneurs like, here's the 3 things that I'm frustrated by at this incumbent, and I'm going to go take the incumbent out. I think that it shows some hubris and some confidence that could help you in a pitch.
Yeah, I would just double down on the communication breakdown as like the actual problem here, because as a fund, I'm actually probably not ever going to be your customer, only because we built our own systems now. Yes. And every major fund has taken a 15-year-old kid and built the agents, right? Like I'm just saying like, because I'm too old to know how to do it. They actually know how to do it. So it's like we're all building our own infrastructure to do that, but we still suffer with the problem, which is we need them to give us the updates and like have them be. So I think there's a huge, I love that push here, which is I think at an angel and super angel level or SPV level, the idea of having professional tools is great. I think it'll be hard sell to bigger funds, but solving the communication layer is something I would pay for as a fund. So that would be how you might get my money.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Well, y'all can check it out. We'd love to have you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Real quick, how was it on this side?
Oh, this side was great. I'm here for the education, not only for mine, but I mean, again, it's important for us to share these stories. So thank y'all for the feedback, and thank you for your attention.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you
So much, Harold, for kicking it off.